What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give our takes on the Miami Dolphins. It is Friday afternoon, August 18th, 2023, and we got a lot to talk about here today. We have an update on Terron Armstead from yesterday. Not really an update today, but just me basically talking about it and everything that happened with Terron Armstead yesterday. We're going to talk about Christian Wilkins holding in, not holding out. He's holding in, which is going to lead, both topics are going to lead to a mini rant about Chris Grier, because I got some things to get off my chest. I'm starting to get pissed off at Chris Grier, man. I don't know about any of the Dolphins fans that are watching this, but I'm starting to get a little annoyed at Chris Grier. Let me know if you agree in the comments below, and we'll talk a little bit about the preseason game happening tomorrow, 4 o'clock against the Houston Texans. I will be here tomorrow night talking about the preseason game, Dolphins Texans. The first post-game wrap-up video of the season is going to be tomorrow night. It's a preseason game, so it's not going to be as detailed as I'd like to be during the regular season games. Once September 10th hits, though, then we get rolling. The post-game wrap-up videos, they're going to be really good once September 10th comes. I can't wait for another season of Miami Dolphins content here on the Big Fight Field channel. But, man, we got so much to talk about. Let me take a sip of my drink right here. Excellent. We got a lot to talk about, so I don't want to waste any much time. Let's dive right into it, man. We're going to dive right into this. And the first thing we're going to talk about is everything going on with Terron Armstead. Yesterday, Terron Armstead hurt his right knee in practice. He was brought to the sideline by trainers. His right knee was getting checked out. He couldn't bend it. He couldn't put his shoe on, and he got carted away right to the locker room. It sounded pretty bad, man. It sounded really bad. Dolphins fans had a heart attack for close to 8 hours yesterday. I was at work and I read the news like around 11:30, and I'm just like, I literally sat in silence for like 5 minutes. It's going to happen because he hasn't played a healthy season in his entire career. But for it to happen this early, we were nervous, man. Every Dolphins fan around the world was nervous. And then Terron Armstead, he sent out 2 tweets yesterday. The first tweet, he posted a video of him walking around the Houston Texans facility. It seemed like he looked all fine, so that was good to see. I couldn't tell if he was limping or not. And then about 4 hours later, he tweeted out the following: "Got landed on doing team run in practice today. Things like that happen in the trenches. We just get up and get back to work." And that's what I do. Mindset is on week 1. And then I could sit back and be like, whew, take a nice deep breath, let it all out, let the anxiety out, There's no anxiety anymore. As of right now, he is getting an MRI today just to clear things up, just to make sure everything's okay. And then it's on to week 1 versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Rest him up. No preseason, no joint practices, no training camp. He's the type of player who doesn't need to practice. He needs to stay healthy. With his health status throughout his career, his health is so important to us because if he goes down for a long, extended period of time, the Dolphins are fucked. They're fucked. And I was thinking about this last night, listening to the Dolphins Talk podcast. Shout out to that crew. They are the best Miami Dolphin content creators in the Dolphins community right now, in my opinion. The people over at Dolphins Talk. Shout out to them. The two most valuable people on this roster are Terron Armstead and Tua Tagovailoa. Jalen Ramsey got hurt. He hurt his meniscus. He got a full repair, and it sucks. It was heartbreaking. Ramsey was crushed by it, but the Dolphins can get over it because the Dolphins can overcome it. They can get over it because they have depth at corner. They have Xavier Howard. They have Kader Kohu. They have Elijah Campbell. They have Cam Smith. They're talking about bringing in Bryce Callahan, which I think would be a great move because his defensive coordinator for 6 years was Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio was with Bryce Callahan for 6 years of his career when he was with the Bears and when he was with the Denver Broncos. So if he were to come play for the Miami Dolphins, I think that would be a great move, bringing Bryce Callahan to the Miami Dolphins. Especially after seeing what Noah Igbenogany did yesterday at practice, getting absolutely cooked by Nico Collins. Unbelievable, man. Nico Collins cooking Noah Igbenogany in practice. Shocker. But back to the point. Jalen Ramsey goes down. The Dolphins can overcome that. If Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle go down, yes, it would suck, but they could overcome that because they are loaded at receiver. If one of the defensive linemen come down, say Bradley Chubb goes down, it would suck. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but the Dolphins can overcome that because they're looking really good at the front seven. The Atlanta Falcons and the Houston Texans, who we had joint practices with, both said that Dolphins front seven is going to be an issue because it confuses offenses. And hearing that, I cannot wait to watch the Miami Dolphins defense this season. It's going to be awesome. But the two positions that I don't think the Dolphins would be able to overcome is if Tua goes down and if Terron Armstead goes down. If Terron Armstead goes down, Tua is going to get destroyed. Because after what happened last year, there's not another quarterback in the NFL who needs more protection than Tua Tagovailoa. He needs Terron Armstead. And without Terron Armstead, the offensive line is a loose cannon. And in a bad way too, man. Austin Jackson, you would probably fill in Kendall Lamb, which I'm hearing solid things about him, which is great. But in reality, I just don't trust Kendall Lamb to get the job done. I don't know if it might just be me, but I don't trust Kendall Lamb that much. I don't trust anybody on the offensive line besides Terron Armstead and Connor Williams. Robert Hunt, he's okay. He's fine. But he does make mistakes sometimes. But there's not the only two people on this offensive line that I trust is Terron Armstead and Connor Williams. And Louis Riddick from ESPN said it yesterday best. If Terron Armstead were to go out for an extended period of time, the Dolphins' chances to win the AFC East and the AFC go down dramatically. And he's absolutely correct, because if Terron Armstead goes down, the Miami Dolphins are going to have a hard time making the playoffs. Same thing with Tua. You saw how it panned out last year. When Tua Tagovailoa was not in the game, the Dolphins lost to the Jets week 5, to Minnesota. Who else? They lost to Cincinnati. They lost to the Patriots. And they beat the Jets the last week of the season. And the only reason they beat the Jets the last week of the season is because the defense played fantastic that game, because the Jets haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games. The Jets' offense at the end of last season, horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So the Dolphins, they just cannot win without Tua Tagovailoa. They need Tua. They need Terron Armstead. If one of those two players goes down for an extended period of time, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye. If Tua's out for a long time, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye. If Terron Armstead goes out for a long time, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye. I'm happy he's fine now. We got the benefit of the doubt. This was good that he doesn't need surgery and that he's more than likely going to be ready by week 1. But who's to say next time something like this happens, it won't be worse? Again, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but this is the NFL, and legit, you can tear an ACL on any given play. So the Dolphins, they need to hope that one of those two guys don't go out for an extended period of time. Any player, by that matter. Now let's talk about Christian Wilkins. It came out on Wednesday in the press conference from Mike McDaniel that the Dolphins and Christian Wilkins are working on a new contract. And as of right now, Christian Wilkins is going to hold in, which means he's not going to participate in team drills. He'll be at practice. He'll support the team. He'll talk to young players, but he won't participate on 11-on-11s, and he won't be in team drills. So basically, he's pulling a Marshawn Lynch because he's just showing up so he won't get fined. And it boggles my mind how this was not a priority for the Miami Dolphins and Chris Grier going into this season, was to make sure Christian Wilkins was a paid man. They need to pay Christian Wilkins, man. He absolutely deserves it. His play on the field shows it. His leadership shows it. 98 tackles. 98 tackles for a defensive lineman is pretty fucking impressive. And I'm going to blame Chris Grier on this one, man. I know that you brought in a lot of players and you got to restructure contracts, but they didn't make Christian Wilkins a priority. And this is when I get upset at Chris Grier. And this is when I'm going to do a little rant on Chris Grier. So bear with me. I apologize for like the next 3 minutes. Bear with me. Basically, every player that is on this team was brought in by Chris Grier. Chris Grier drafted who he wanted. Tua, Jalen Waddle, Liam Eichenberg. He's so bad. Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Noah Igbinoghene. No matter how bad he is, Chris Grier wanted Noah Igbinoghene, Cam Smith, and then bringing players in for big money contracts. Tyreek Hill, Terron Armstead, re-signing Xavier Howard, trading for Bradley Chubb. So Chris Grier has done a great job at bringing Jalen Ramsey's another one, bringing in big player names and giving them big money contracts, and having hits in the NFL draft. 2020, not so much. 2021 was a fantastic draft. Outside of Liam Eichenberg, fantastic draft. This season, they drafted Cam Smith, which is looking like a great pick, and they drafted Devon Achane, which is looking like a great pick. If both those guys pan out the way we want them to, 2023 would have been a successful draft. But here's the issue. Here is the issue, folks. Here's the problem with Chris Grier. Let me take a sip real quick. Chris Grier's problem is, number one, waiting too long to pay his players, re-sign his players. The same thing happened with Xavier Howard. The Dolphins were getting ready to trade away Xavier Howard before the 2021 season. And then Chris Grier finally paid Xavier Howard the money he deserved. Because in 2020, Xavier Howard was the best corner in the NFL. 10 interceptions, top 3 defensive player of the year. 2020 was the year of Xavier Howard. And they were not paying him, and he was going to sit out, and then they paid him right before the 2021 season. And now the same thing is happening with Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins had a fantastic season, 98 tackles. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. And they're waiting until training camp to pay him. Do I think they're going to pay Christian Wilkins? I fucking hope so, man. I fucking hope so. Because if this man does not pay Christian Wilkins, he's gone. And who knows if he's even going to play this season if the Miami Dolphins don't pay him. I'm hoping they do. I have optimism that they're going to pay Christian Wilkins sooner rather than later. But you've got to pay him now. You have got to pay Wilkins, Chris Grier. You have to. And then the lack of preparation. Making fun of us. It reminded me of Vince McMahon. And I hate bringing wrestling and football together, but I'm using Vince McMahon as an example. Because Vince McMahon hates wrestling fans, okay? Someone gets over organically by themselves in the WWE. Fans love them unbelievably. Vince McMahon hates that because he didn't tell you to get over. You have to get over when he wants you to, in the WWE methodical way for you to get over. And when wrestlers do that, they don't do that. Vince McMahon hates that. Vince McMahon hates when wrestling fans take over shows and they hijack shows. With this case, fans are voicing their opinion about the offensive line. Chris Grier needs to address the offensive line going into the offseason. What does he do? He says in March, Oh, the only people that are concerned about the offensive line are the fans. Ha ha ha. And this off season, he brings in Isaiah Wynn and Dan Feeney, which, no offense to those guys, but those guys are not going to change. They're not going to make a huge impact on the Miami Dolphins offensive line. They could, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Chris Grier and the Dolphins had problems last year at left guard and right tackle. Now, right tackle for most of the season, Austin Jackson was hurt. Brandon Shell filled in for Austin Jackson, and I thought he was okay. He was a serviceable tackle for Austin Jackson. And then Austin Jackson came back, and he got hurt again, and he was out for the season. So Austin Jackson played a total of 2 games last season for the Miami Dolphins. Left guard, Liam Eichenberg. I'm sorry, but he's not panning out. It is an absolute train wreck. It is an absolute fucking train wreck right now with Liam Eichenberg. He's bad. That's just the nicest way to put it. He's bad. I could say way meaner things, but I'm not going to. The man didn't allow a sack in college. And in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, he's just a bad guard. And it's not panning out. And instead of going to get a left guard in free agency, which may I mind you, Dalton Reisner's still out there, Chris Grier. You don't have to settle with Isaiah Wynn. You don't have to settle with the depth that you had. You can go pay. It's okay. You got $12 million of cap space. Give Dalton Reisner $2 million. It's okay because he's better. I'm not saying he's this great guard. He's fantastic. But he's better than Liam Eichenberg. And he's better than Isaiah Wynn. That's all I'm saying. But it's not panning out with Liam Eichenberg. And you didn't address it. And now, Liam Eichenberg is not even practicing. It's not looking good for him. You got Isaiah Wynn, Robert Jones, and Lester Cotton taking roles at left guard. It is not looking good for Liam Eichenberg. I don't even know if he's going to play tomorrow. And this is all on Chris Grier. With the lack of preparation and with an injury-prone player like Terron Armstead, you couldn't go out there and get yourself a solid backup in case Terron Armstead is out for an extended period of time. Now, if that happens, you're stuck with Kendall Lamb. We as Dolphin fans are stuck with Kendall Lamb at left tackle. And Chris Grier is the man at fault. And I'm telling you what, the last thing I will say before we talk about the game tomorrow is if the Miami Dolphins either A, don't make the playoffs, or B, they sneak in as the last wild card and lose in the first round like they did last year, Chris Grier deserves to be fired. He deserves to be fired. That's all I'm going to say on Chris Grier. Whew. I said that was going to be a 3-minute rant. That was about 10 minutes. So let's get into the game tomorrow. 4 o'clock kickoff against the Houston Texans. It's nationally televised on the NFL Network, so that's exciting. That I don't have to go onto a legal website and watch the game. I can actually go on my television, put on NFL Network, and watch the Miami Dolphins against the Houston Texans. I think that if there's starters that are going to play tomorrow, I think this is the week. And I'm not saying you got to play them for a full half. I'm saying one quarter or one or two series. Let's start with the offense. I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to play tomorrow. I think he needs to play tomorrow because he has not been on the field in a live NFL game since Christmas. And I think if you put him in a situation where it's the first time he's on the field since Christmas against the Chargers this year, he's going to be a little rusty. So I would rather him play tomorrow for a quarter and get the rust out tomorrow. So yes, I think Tua is going to play. I think Raheem Mostert's going to play. Jeff Wilson, a little banged up, but I do think he's going to play. I don't think Alec Ingold's going to play because he hasn't practiced. Myles Gaskin hasn't practiced. I think all the tight ends are going to play tomorrow except Tanner Conner because he hasn't practiced. I think all the wide receivers except Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to play tomorrow. Jalen Waddle's hurt. He hasn't practiced all week. Hope he's going to be okay for week 1. Fingers crossed because we fucking need him. And I don't think Tyreek Hill's going to play because there's no need for Tyreek Hill to play. He's the best goddamn receiver in the NFL. He's Tyreek fucking Hill. He does not need to play tomorrow. And maybe Chosen Anderson, who's been banged up, maybe he doesn't play tomorrow. But I think the other ones do. I think Cedric plays. I think River Craycraft plays. I think Braxton Berrios plays. Eric Ezukama. All those receivers. All the tight ends. I think everybody on the offensive line, besides Terron Armstead, plays. Maybe, I don't think Liam Eichenberg plays. So you'll get Kendall Lamb. You'll get Robert Jones, Isaiah Wynn, Lester Cotton. I think they will all play. Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, Austin Jackson. I think they will play tomorrow. So the only ones on the offensive side that I don't think is going to play tomorrow is Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Terron Armstead. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is my prediction. If there's a game that most of the starters are going to play, I think it's tomorrow. But the big one is I do think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be on the field for at least the series. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't think Christian Wilkins is going to play. That's obvious because he's holding in. Brandon Peely is not going to play probably tomorrow because he got hurt at practice yesterday. I think Raekwon's going to play. Agba's going to play. He played last week, and he was pretty surprised that he played last week, but he was excited about it. Even though he was shocked, he was excited about it. So I definitely think Agba's going to play tomorrow. I think Zach Sealer's going to play tomorrow. I think you're going to see a lot of Deshaun Hand. I think Jalen Phillips will be in there for a series. Van Ginkel will play tomorrow. David Long, get him in there for a series or two. Jerome Baker, Duke Riley, Garrett Nelson. Garrett Nelson stood out last week. You're going to see a lot of Garrett Nelson. You're going to see a lot of Channing Tindall, Cameron Good, those guys. I think you'll see Phillips and Van Ginkel and David Long in there for a couple series, but the names I just said before then, they're going to get the majority of the snaps, I think, tomorrow. I think you'll see Bradley Chubb for a couple series, and then you're going to see a lot of Aubrey Miller. I don't think Xavier Howard needs to play. Again, he's Xavier Howard. There's no need for him to play. God forbid he goes down with a fucking injury. We're fucked at corner. I think Cater plays for a series or two. I don't think Justin Bethel plays because he hasn't practiced. I don't think Brandon Jones plays because he hasn't practiced. I think you'll see Deshaun Elliott tomorrow. Javon Holland plays for a series. I think you're going to see a lot of Verone McKinley. I don't think. Um, I don't know. It's up in the air with Cam Smith. I think it's up in the air whether or not Cam Smith plays tomorrow. But yeah, those are the names that I think. I know it's a lot of names that I think aren't going to play tomorrow. Now, what are some improvements that I want to see from the Dolphins? More pass rush. I didn't really watch the game last week, but I went back and I watched highlights. I want more pressure on the quarterback. Get the pass rush going because there's a couple times where Logan Woodside was just sitting in the pocket and then he would make his throw. And got to prevent that. And from what I'm hearing is from the Falcons and Texans is the front seven is confusing opposing quarterbacks. And they're going to be an issue. So show it tomorrow, man. Don't show everything, but show a little bit of it tomorrow. The big one, I would say, is a huge step forward for Mike White and Skylar Thompson. Because, my God, if last week's game proved me anything, is that if Tua Tagovailoa goes down, the Dolphins are fucked. Now, I know it's only preseason, but they did not play good, man. Skylar was trash. Mike White was trash. Mike White got them up the field to deep Atlanta territory, believe it or not. But his issue was the execution. Interception at the red zone, throwing the ball behind Braxton Berrios. Berrios had to go behind him to catch it, and it was just a horrible throw. Turning the football over, turnover on downs twice in the end zone. So Mike White was getting good drives, but he wasn't executing for touchdowns. That was his big issue. And I just thought Skylar had a bad game. 2 bad interceptions. That first one to Elijah Higgins. Ugh, that was ugly. So, that's the big improvement that I want to see tomorrow. There's more pass rush on the opposing quarterback. I would think C.J. Stroud is going to play. He played in the first game against the Patriots. I would think he's going to play tomorrow. And then we're going to see mostly Davis Mills. So, we'll see. I think it should be a fun game. It's preseason. It's not that serious. But it's almost time. You got the preseason game tomorrow against Houston. Then they're off for 3 days. And then they have practice where fans can come and watch Wednesday and Thursday. Then they have the final preseason game against Jacksonville next Saturday. And then they got to cut the roster from 90 to 53 by August 29th. And then no more training camp. No more joint practices. No more preseason. It's all about business. I can't wait, man. I can't fucking wait. The season starts in 3 weeks, man. I'm so pumped. I am so pumped. It's about fucking time that football is back. I'm getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Big Fight Fuel channel. We're going to have a lot of Dolphins content coming up, man. We'll get the post-game recap video tomorrow night. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Dolphins-related stuff next week, because next week is All In, the biggest show in AEW history. So I'm going to do a lot of content for that next week, predictions, AEW stuff, all that. The following week, I should get back into it with roster cuts taking place on the 29th. I should get back into Dolphins videos the other week, but right after Labor Day, it is full swing. Most of the content here on the channel is going to be Miami Dolphins after Labor Day. So I'm so pumped. I am so pumped, man. And I've got games picked out. I just haven't gotten tickets yet. I'm gonna hit up a couple friends to see if they're interested in going. I have 2 games locked in mind that I want to go to this year, and that is Week 7 against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football, and that is traveling to Miami December 11th for the Monday Night Football game against the Tennessee Titans. Those are the 2 games I have in mind that I want to go to this year. And if I go to both of those games, you guys will get 2 vlogs for sure. So subscribe, comment down below everything I talked about, your thoughts on Terron Armstead yesterday, Grier, and tomorrow's preseason game. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me, and follow me on Twitter at Colin_Joseph. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. The first post-game wrap-up video of the season. I'm not really going to count it because I don't expect for it to be that long, but we'll see. It should be it should be fun. The first real one is September 10th against the Chargers. But have a good night, stay safe, and as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Peace and fins up.